Okay. What a game. That was a game. Yep. Yeah. Uh wow, what a game between the Buffalo Bills and Detroit Lions. I am Don. This is Buffalo Sports Center. And for once I'm not posting an angry reaction. No. I'm a Bills fan. This is Buffalo Sports Center, of course. So you'd have to see more Bills fans. It's not just me. There's a couple of other co-creators on here. But today's a good day, at least for the Buffalo Bills, and not so much for the Buffalo Sabres. But we don't care about that team. That team doesn't exist anymore. The only team here that exists are the Bills. Because the Bills just walked into Detroit, into Ford Field, and let me rephrase. Not just the Bills. Josh Allen just cemented himself as this season's MVP with that performance today at Detroit. Let me read you a stat line real quick. 23 of 34 throws, 362 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 11 carries for Josh Allen, 68 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns for him. So last week in LA, he had 3 passing touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns. This week in Detroit, 2 passing, 2 rushing. But it wasn't just him on the offense, though, folks. James Cook had an incredibly efficient day. 14 carries, 105 yards for 2 rushing touchdowns of his own. And then in the reception game, it was the running back. It's usually the Bills' third string running back, but with how good he was today, he was the second stringer, and that was Ty Johnson. 5 receptions, 114 yards. Him and Allen just seemed to be on the same page when Allen would start ad-libbing on the field. It was beautiful, folks. It was beautiful to watch. An offensive masterpiece by Josh Allen, Joe Brady, and the entire offense. The only downside today for the Bills' offense was that Spencer Brown, midway through the fourth quarter, limped off the field. It appeared he had a back injury, so that will be something to watch as we move into the final month of this season. But for the rest of the Bills' offense, it was incredible. I mean, Josh Allen, what more to say about this guy? 2 straight weeks where him and this offense has put up 40-plus points. And they finally get a win this week. And going into this game, you knew Josh Allen had to be perfect, right? And I talked about this in my video earlier this week on Monday. I discussed how the Lions had a lot of weapons on offense. And nobody's been able to figure out how to stop Ben Johnson, Jared Goff, Jamo Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Sam Laporta. I mean, there were so many weapons for this Detroit Lions offense. And the point that I was trying to make, but failed to, I guess, really convey itself over to the viewer, was that the Bills were not going to find a way to stop them. They just weren't. That's the reality. I mean, you look at last week and how poorly they performed against Matt Stafford, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, Kyren Williams. You knew against I wouldn't say LA is a bad offense, but they are certainly not up to the level that is this Detroit offense. So you just knew that Josh Allen was going to have to be perfect. And he was. No turnovers for this Bills offense, and if you go back a couple years ago to when the Bills last played the Lions on Thanksgiving in Detroit, the only reason that Detroit was still in that game, why it was as close as it was because of red zone turnovers by Josh Allen. And that was a problem that happened throughout that entire season. But today you didn't see any of that. You saw none of that. You saw Josh Allen play a very clean, efficient game. He used his legs a lot, but he didn't take any unnecessary hits in my eyes. And for the defense, it was not going to be a good showing. Nobody was expecting this Bills defense to stop the Detroit offense, especially when before game time, it was announced that the Bills were without 3 of their starting secondary players, Rasul Douglas, Taylor Rapp, and Damar Hamlin. But for the most part, I mean, through the first half, I thought they played pretty well. They got a 3-and-outs against the Lions early in the first quarter. They got another one in the third quarter, and that was enough. That was enough. You still gave up 42 points, but one of those touchdowns came with garbage time, less than a minute to go here in the fourth quarter. But again, I thought that the Bills defense, they did enough. They got enough stops. They got a turnover, too, that helped set up a Bills touchdown drive, and that's not something that we saw against the Rams, and it's the little things like that where teams get separated between losers and winners, and that's the exact reason why I think the Bills didn't win last week. Even though the defense was very aggressive in the second half of the Rams game, and they were aggressive here in this Lions game, they didn't get any turnovers, and most importantly, the defensive line for the Bills was carved up against the LA Rams. But I thought Ed Oliver had a very nice bounce-back game. AJ Epinesa had a good bounce-back game as well. I thought Greg Rousseau played fine. The only problem was Terrell Bernard. He didn't play good today, folks. He did not play good as that starting middle linebacker. And we saw Matt Milano go down with an injury in the second half. So it was Terrell Bernard and Balen Spector. And Balen Spector's not very good at this point in his career. And I was hoping for more from Terrell Bernard. But there was a few plays, especially in that fourth quarter, where Jared Goff was able to manipulate Bernard, manipulate this defense with his eyes, and to get guys like Sam Laporta wide open, Amon-Ra wide open, Jahmyr Gibbs on the screens. And I said it in that Monday video where a lot of Lions fans, and I'm sorry I'm readjusting here, a lot of Lions fans came at me a little bit, saying that the Bills wouldn't be able to stop the Lions, therefore they wouldn't win the game. No, it's called you score more. And I said in that video, and I'll say it here again, the Bills took advantage of Detroit's defensive injuries. And I really hate that the narrative after this week, it's not going to necessarily be that Josh Allen was an MVP performer today. He was, and I think everyone's going to say that, but I think there's going to be a segment of the NFL fan base that's going to go, well, looks like Detroit's injuries finally caught up to them. They were missing this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy. If they had those guys, maybe things would have turned out differently. Maybe. Maybe they would have. But I don't think anyone was stopping Josh Allen today. And the math doesn't really equate there if you're using that rationale in my eyes. Because Josh Allen has been playing on an alien level here for 2 to 3 weeks now. So, yeah, I mean, the Bills were great. They were fantastic. Sean McDermott didn't have any blunders at the end of the game. There nearly was with that near onside kick recovery by Detroit with 12 seconds left. I was really like, oh no. No, we're not doing this again. We couldn't win at 13 seconds against Kansas. We can't be giving up a lead with 12 seconds to go. But that didn't happen. The Bills beat the Lions 48-42. The Bills now move within a game, and it's a game and a half against the Kansas City Chiefs for the number 1 seed. But it's not over yet because Patrick Mahomes went down with a high ankle sprain in the early window against the Cleveland Browns. He could possibly miss a few weeks. Then it would be Carson Wentz taking over the show in Kansas City. That could be enough of an opening for the Bills to walk in and maybe steal that number 1 seed from Kansas City. And this is a topic for another time, but you have to ask yourself, folks, do you really want that 1 seed? Because undoubtedly, you're going to have to face the Baltimore Ravens in that second round. Now, if Baltimore beats Pittsburgh next week and they somehow take the division, I don't remember how the tiebreakers work for that, I would have a different feeling. I would much rather be the number 1 seed and face possibly the Steelers in round 2 in the divisional round instead of... I just don't want to face the Ravens. That's my point. Do not want to face the Ravens at all in the playoffs because they have a very good matchup against the Buffalo Bills. But I would much prefer to play the Broncos, Chargers, Steelers, Texans. I would love to play those teams, but not the Ravens. Everyone but the Ravens. But who knows? We got 3 more weeks left, folks. Lots of more football to play here before the playoffs, and this one, I wouldn't be surprised either if we saw the Bills and Lions face each other one more time this season, maybe in that Super Bowl down in New Orleans. Who knows? But anyways, folks, this was a good time here to be a Bills fan. Detroit, don't be too sad. You guys played a very, very good game. 99% of the time, you score 42 points, you should win the football game. But Josh Allen just proved today why he is this year's MVP. Anyone saying anything else, suggesting anyone else, that's a bad opinion. Cold take. Anyways, folks, thank you for watching. I was Don. This is Buffalo SportsCenter. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe, and I shall see all of you in the next video, whenever that may be. Cheers.